Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Actually, it's time for Purple Access. Judd Zolgad, Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune sports columnist, and Declan Goff, of course, executive producing the entire thing. And as Chip said before we crack the mics, a lot to get to. So, Chipper, let's get right to it. How refreshing was it to see, especially on offense, on Sunday, the approach to this team make perfect sense? I mean, yeah. Justin Jefferson statistically for 2 years has been great, so I'm not saying he was not used. That would be incorrect. But the way he was used on Sunday, it was like, thank you. Somebody's actually doing the right thing for once.
Judd, how many times last year did we argue about Justin Jefferson not getting enough touches or not enough targets?
Yeah.
Like 4 times?
Yeah. At least.
I'll be surprised if that happens this year, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing that stood out to me. We'll get to the defense, but offensively, this whole notion of cloud coverage, he's doubled, can't do it, got to go elsewhere. Yep. No, scheme him open.
Yes.
Right? That's how you make a lot of money. Scheme him open. And we saw that. We saw the motions. We saw the different routes. That's the fact that he got so wide open on a couple of those wasn't because the Packers, didn't account for Justin Jefferson. They schemed him open. They had creative designs in the routes.
Thank you.
To get him. And so that's all you've been wanting to see. You have this marvelous talent who's going to get a lot of attention. Figure out ways to get him open. So that was very refreshing.
I'm so glad you said that because here's what I love. I love the feeling. And again, this is the danger of people who watch film, right? Because they're not the coaches, and that's fine. You know what? Breaking down film, knock yourself out. It's awesome. But the danger of people who watch film is this. We're now being told the Packers didn't really cover him. What were the Packers doing? Do you really think the Packers went in with a game plan of, let's shock them? 18? Don't cover him at times. You're right. They schemed him open. Now they will put things on film that will become at least blueprints to follow. But the point is, I love the film work of Packers, the coverage. Why does it break down? Because Justin Jefferson's that good. Like it just boggles my mind because it's not like we're coaches or football experts, Chipper, but it boggles my mind when we were saying that last year. People are like, the Lions went to cloud coverage, and if you do that, it's over. And now it's like the Packers didn't cover him. No, they tried to cover him. They fell woefully short because they didn't know what was coming from him.
Well, and I wonder how much, too, is just the newness of not knowing how they're going to use him. So we saw him out wide in the slot, in motion a bunch.
Tight end at once.
Tight end, backfield.
Yep.
I saw a stat today where they used 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, like almost 70% of the time, whereas it was basically 50% of the time game one last year. So we talked last week, like I was curious about what was going to be the approach with Dalvin and how they're still going to use them. I think we saw it. I think this is going to be a definite rotation with him and Madison, but it's going to be get the ball to Jefferson and complement it with the running game versus it's going to revolve around Dow. I think it's going to evolve. This offense will evolve, but I think we saw Kevin O'Connell's vision Sunday, and this is going to run through Jefferson.
And to be very clear, Kevin O'Connell knows exactly what he wants. He comes from the Rams, who basically are very well run offensively. And so Kevin O'Connell knows what he wants. But Kevin O'Connell is doing what any smart offensive mind would do. And now what this does to me is, see, my biggest problem, Chipper, with the Vikings previously was this. They allowed their offense to be dictated by the opponent. Now they're going to dictate things. So like on Sunday, they put all of this Justin Jefferson stuff on tape, right? But they didn't really use Thielen. They didn't really use Osborne, and they used Cook,
Smith.
But not as Smith, exactly, but not as a dynamic player. So now Philadelphia is going to say, we are going to take 18 out if that's the only thing that we do. And now step 2 is, okay, 18 is still going to play a big role, but now we've got 19. Like you said, we've got Smith, we've got Osborne. We can do, I have a feeling there's a lot more that Cook can do. So that's the point. This is why it's like, okay, somebody's using common sense now. This is not like, Justin Jefferson, I never expected this. It's setting things up.
Well, it is. I mean, I think we'll see Cook as a receiver quite often. You're right. Did Thielen even have a target before the third quarter? I don't think he did, right? The first, he targeted twice, right? That he made both catches.
And three catches, right?
3 catches, yeah. I don't think he did in the first half, so
might be right.
Yeah, I mean, this is it was a game plan that made sense. And that's all use your best player a lot. And some of it is, Judd, he's just so much better than you, than your guy. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you can scheme him open and do those things too, but even when he's covered, like the 2 best plays I thought, well, I'll say 3 best. The first touchdown, sent him in motion and kind of creating confusion there, and he gets the touchdown. Was it 4-yard or whatever? The second one was when Cousins stepped up in the pocket on the deep ball with the pass rushers coming around the edge, and he steps up. That's what you want to see from him. Step up and launch it down there. And the third one I thought might have been the play of the game was, I don't think the momentum was shifting. I don't think they were in trouble. Yep. But there was that 3rd and 7 in was it the 3rd or 4th quarter, where he threw the ball up to Justin down the middle to go make a play. He was covered, but Justin made that leaping catch. It's like, there it is. That's it, Cousins. I mean, throw the ball down the field and let Jefferson go make a play and beat the guy because he's better than him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing here. And look, I think Kirk, for what Kirk can do, was maximized. Like, that is what you want from Kirk. The 62-yard completion when he was, I believe he was under pressure. O'Neal was holding his block, but it was breaking down. And to your point, he ran up in the pocket and launched it. That's exactly what you want from Kirk. And you're right. Justin Jefferson is going to make that play. And what I really loved on Sunday, which to me was incredibly important too, was it's very clear that at some point in time, O'Connell said, okay, first and foremost, we're going to feature Jefferson. So you know what? Thielen's really good, and eventually he'll have a really good game, and you guys are friends, and you look for him, and that's awesome. But this is all about 18. And so, I love the fact now that the starting point, and this does not mean that other people will not contribute, but the starting point is Jefferson. And what looks like a questionable Kirk throw, you nailed it. Justin Jefferson's going to catch it.
Yeah, it's Tice got in trouble with the Randy ratio way back when, but I would say set 10 targets as your goal every game for Jefferson. I mean, that should, no matter what the defense does, short of putting 5 guys around him and building a brick wall,
yes,
that should be your target, and you'll still have enough plays. You'll factor in Thielen, you'll factor in Dalvin. I actually thought second half Dalvin kind of got in a rhythm a little bit. There was that one drive where I think they gave it to him like 4 or 5 times there, maybe not in a row, but he started to kind of find some, and that's what will happen. Like if you do that passing game as effectively and as efficiently as they did, there's going to be opportunities for Dalvin to get going. So, but this offense is all about Cousins and Jefferson right now, and establishing that, and then playing off everything else around that.
It brought a tear to my eye also to see Jefferson in motion so much, because that's what screws things up. Like the whole thing about, well, he has been taken away by the safety, blah blah blah. Okay, that happens when you don't motion a guy, because yes, if he lines up somewhere, it's simple. But the Packers were constantly confused because of what? And look, Cooper Kupp had a marvelous year, not one game, not 2 games, a marvelous year. Why? Because at some point in time, it becomes very hard to cover that guy. So I don't expect that Jefferson will be regularly taken away. I think there'll be plays where he probably is, but I don't think that there's going to be like this whole game where it's like, well, they shut him down because of the motioning.
Well, the fact that you motion him and then also line him up, the whole idea is to make him to not be predictable, because then you can set your coverage. But if you're moving them all around and putting them in motion, it's hard for a defense to react to that on the fly, right? If he's running across the formation, it's like, okay, now you got to make us who's got him, where, doesn't that seem like that should be a simple concept?
That's what I'm saying. That's what drives me. That's what drove me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just seems like,
yes,
if a defense is able to, okay, he's going to be here 80% of the time and we can just set our coverages and yes, move him, move around, do different things.
And you know how to do it.
Yeah. Well, I just, we didn't really know what to expect, right? We didn't see anything in preseason.
Right. We
had an idea what we thought, but Judd, I'd be hard pressed to say it could have gone much better for Kevin O'Connell.
Oh, went fantastic.
In terms of the game plan, execution, the way your guys responded, not just offensively. I mean, to me, the biggest story I know Jefferson, what he did gets the biggest headlines, but to me, the most impactful thing was the way the defense played.
Yeah, I love the aggressiveness. They still have to get a little more stout against the run, probably. And Jalen Hurts is going to give them a very interesting challenge, because the one thing is Rodgers can't run now, and he used to take off a ton. Jalen Hurts is going to present some problems. But that being said, for a first game, I thought it was impressive. And you know what? It also proved what we've been discussing since Smith signed, is if Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter are healthy, you're still going to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is they were as disruptive as you thought they would be. Both guys had a sack. Both guys had hurries. Danielle had a pass breakup. Zadarius helped contribute on that 4th and goal stop. And I think just the energy and bravado that both of those guys bring elevates everybody around them. And I thought they were good at – they got a little, beat up there in the secondary a little bit when Dantzler had to go out for, a couple series or whatever. But I thought Harrison Smith looked really good. Obviously the interception, but I thought he played well. Their linebackers were good. I mean, it was impressive. And that's after being so bad at every level last year. It was nice to see them be able to stop the run for the most part. I mean, you held the Packers to 7 points, and you made Rodgers look just angry all day. I know he was mad at his receivers for dropping the ball, but he was. Yeah,
when Christian Watson dropped that ball, I'd be pissed off too.
Yeah,
literally went through his hands.
His body language was just so bad. It always is, when things don't go his way, but it was particularly bad Sunday.
I think part of the key thing too, and this sounds simplistic, but I think it's true. Guys like Harrison Smith, Danielle Hunter, Kendricks are having fun now. And I will say this, I think, and it's important, I think Zadarius Smith's enthusiasm and fun is freeing Hunter up to show a side of his personality that we've seen glimpses of. I think we've seen glimpses, but I've never seen him just this enthusiastic for entire games and for practices as we've seen. And I think that's a direct result of his friendship with Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, it's he definitely seems more comfortable, like just in his conversations with us. And I don't know if that's because his 8th year? Or how long? If he's a veteran now, is it because he's had football taken away from him for the most part for 2 years, and he's just happy to be back and treating it, maybe differently. Just realizes how fortunate you are because you could be on the side. I don't know. It could be all those things, but he seems like a different personality, Danielle does, than what we've. And now, does that? He's still a tremendous pass rusher. When you watch him, I was watching him there. I mean, he gets so low. It's like he's a race car on the line, getting ready to sprint around there.
He's a freak.
Yeah, he is. Did you see the one play he lined up over the slot receiver? And I asked him if he'd ever done it. He said, yeah, he's done that before. I don't, I'm sure he had. I didn't recall that. But he had the one play where he lined up over the slot receiver. It's like,
I might call a timeout.
yeah.
If I was the slot receiver, I might be like, hey, Aaron, hey, Matt LaFleur, we're calling a timeout. Don't care. Don't want to die.
Don't throw it to me. No, I mean, and that was the other thing. We saw the creativity from Donatello and moving those guys around. We saw Danielle on the obvious third and long passing situations would go inside. We saw Zadarius go inside a number of times, switch sides of the line. So it looked like a well-prepared team, Judd, on both sides of the ball. It looked like a well-prepared team.
It really did. And O'Connell too. And this is something that we won't talk about if it goes well, but if it does not, i.e. the Broncos and that Hackett disaster Monday night in Seattle, Kevin O'Connell. Now, I know he said personally, I got to clean some things up, blah, blah, blah. But his game management, timeouts, challenges, all of that was damn near flawless. I think it was. Flawless.
You're reading my Monday column, I see, huh?
Yeah, maybe. Just maybe.
Little tease. No, I'm right about this. That that's the thing. Like when these teams are going through the interview process and vetting coaches, you can do all the things about systems and all this, but you don't know how they're going to manage a game when it really starts. And that Hackett was a disaster. I mean, it was just an absolute disaster, that final minute. And I credit O'Connell. We've all kind of had fun with how many coaches he has, but to have a game management coordinator, I think you're dumb not to. With all the money they have there, why wouldn't you have somebody that's maybe not even – it might be just doing the work on the front end, Judd. Like, hey, there was no hesitation when they got that fourth down there. They were going for it. Mm-hmm. Now, you might say that's a no-brainer, but, if you haven't thought about it or planned for those situations. So, no, I'd be curious to know – because he said it twice. He said after the game and then again Monday that he's hard on himself personally, and there's some things he didn't like about the way he called the game or handled the game. I'd be curious to know because it wasn't obvious. There wasn't anything that stood out that,
Yeah, he said the one thing he said, I think it was in his presser on Monday was, and it makes sense. He said at times he was going back to talk to Kirk and that he wasn't positioned correctly then where if there was, he had to talk to the refs or probably throw a challenge flag. And that's going to be the one thing because so the quarterback's coaches, I think, are downstairs. Phillips is upstairs. Yeah. So that's going to be his one thing. But I mean, that's an intriguing thing too, because like that's the part of the game that the head coach can't ignore. Like if there's a challenge or an official, because he said flat out, I need to be in the right position on the sideline.
Yeah, on the field. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If you're back here on, looking at a thing with Cousins, and then all of a sudden something happens with your defense out there and you need to challenge it, and you're not watching the game. But that, you know what? That's good, right? I think that's good that happened in that game where he's going to learn these things as he goes along because he never had to worry about it with his Rams. He just focused on offense. Well, now you got to focus on the whole game, and so that's probably a good lesson learned for him.
And he did the one thing too that he talked about Kirk a few months ago. He talked about Kirk needing to play with a quiet mind, and I felt like O'Connell coached with a quiet mind. The counter to that is Nathaniel Hackett. You could tell it's but I mean
he was frazzled, Judge.
He's processing the game like we would, which is and his post game presser. Hackett is like going, he's like all hyped up and he's like going a mile a minute, and it's like, dude,
he couldn't talk any faster.
I know.
It was too much. It felt like a guy who was overmatched by the moment.
Yes, but I mean, do you recover from that? Like, you can tweak things and learn, but it feels like his personality might just be like the personality of a coordinator.
Yeah, I watched this because I wanted to see his answer to why he tried to kick the second longest field goal in NFL history. And the more he talked, it just felt he was rattled. And I don't know. I mean, that's why I can't. You go back to temperament. These organizations can vet coaches and how much they know, and they can win the interview process. But when the game starts, you don't know. You really don't know how they're going to handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he came back on Tuesday then and said, "Yeah, you know what? In retrospect, we should have had Russ go for it. No kidding." But I mean, he also had been told you're a moron like 57 times by then.
Yeah, everybody wants you fired right now. No, it was. I mean, the kicker made a long field goal. It's like this. It's like literally everything broke right and it just seemed like it was a pretty stress-free. Which I know it wasn't stress-free.
It really did.
There weren't a lot of pivotal moments and pivotal decisions, and oh my gosh, you're going to be second guessed, until Friday on this decision. So it was, and then you're in the locker room too, and we've been in winning locker rooms, so they're all but there is a different vibe in there. I mean, there just is.
They're happy.
It's yeah. I mean, it just feels like a weight has been lifted off their shoulders.
Yes, and I think it has. Things were so toxic last year and so not fun. And I mean, you can't.
So heavy. They're so heavy.
Yeah, exactly.
The atmosphere was heavy around there. Yeah,
exactly. And so I think that O'Connell. I think he has in some ways just stepped into the perfect situation because I mean, just by being a human being and being accepting. And so post game from Kirk, O'Connell got a game ball. But Chip Scoggins, if you could have given O'Connell a gift after the game, would it have been a game ball or would it have been perhaps your favorite beer?
No, I would have pulled up one of my 4-packs of Surly Furious, and we would have sat down on the couch, kicked our feet up, watched the replay of the game, kind of broke it down, went through the X's and O's, and just enjoyed a couple of Surly Furiouses. Because that's what I did when I got home. The tall boys.
The tall boys are so good. You're right about that too. I love the tall boys. I love the tall boys. That's right. And of course, Purple Daily and Purple Access brought to you by our friends at Surly Brewing and also TCL. Enjoy more with TCL TV. If you're not watching a football game on TCL, what are you doing? I want to talk about Kirk with you for a second because I've got an opinion on Kirk and I'm curious if you share it and saw the same thing. And it's not just the game. He played a great game, but post game. And I don't know if you went to his presser and of course, the Vikings showed the clip of him giving Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell game balls. I felt like that was as much as we've seen from Kirk. I always felt the Zimmer years, Kirk tried to force that smile, and he didn't really answer questions like he did, but he didn't. He seemed like a guy who didn't enjoy going to work, but was acting like he did. On Sunday, and look, I mean, Kirk is never going to be like Brady. He's never going to come off as being, in my opinion, 100% comfortable in his own skin. But I feel like that was as close as we've ever come post-game to seeing who Kirk Cousins really is when he's not miserable.
I've said it since O'Connell got here, going back to the spring, that it felt like he went out of his way and made a concerted attempt to empower Cousins. Like everything was about lifting him up. This is his team. He's running it. We want him to be aggressive. Don't worry about mistakes. Be comfortable with his offense. I think he likes his coach now. I think he has a good relationship with his coach now. I think he has an understanding of what is expected of him. There's no way he would have done that with Zimmer here. Be passing out game balls to people.
Agreed.
And so will that, is that alone going to make him, elevate his game and, take him to wherever, deep playoff run? No, you got to combine that with the scheme. And we saw that, what that could possibly look like. But yeah, he just feels more comfortable with everything right now. And I think it's just because of the relationship he has with O'Connell versus Zimmer.
And I feel like O'Connell, at least in game one, and it's, quite a ways to go after this, but I felt like O'Connell's experiment was working, which is I'm going to get the most possible, like by giving Kirk. I think O'Connell thinks like this. I wasn't a very good QB myself, but I know what I want, and like I get the game. And Kirk has, and we have talked about this, the physical attributes to execute a game plan. So I feel like O'Connell's experiment is if I give him the answers to the test and basically the direction of how to take the test, I can maximize him. And it felt like that. And this all gets back to, you also have Justin Jefferson, who is an absolute superstar. So it's sort of like, to me, the offensive perfect storm if you have the right mad scientist as your coach to set things up.
Yeah, that, and I'll say this too, Joe, we haven't mentioned this, but except for a couple early hiccups, the line gave him time. The offensive line plays it, and that's a big part of Cousins' thing. I mean, he was pretty well protected, and when he wasn't, he stepped up in the pocket and made a deep throw. He moved around more. He seemed, in the past, haven't you seen him just look panicky when things are breaking down? I didn't see that at all. Not once, even when he was sacked, or there might have been a couple check downs, but it wasn't this, oh my gosh, what I do, rattled. I mean, he just looked like you said earlier, a freed mind. That's what it looked like. It looked like a guy who was in complete control of what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I think that he definitely looked like a guy who has been made comfortable. And you're right. So there's two plays in particular that stood out to me as plays that he either does not make or screws up. The first one is the 62-yard pass, okay?
Yeah.
Name me the last time, and look, he's made really good passes, and that pass itself was not like aesthetically pleasing, but it worked.
Yeah.
But name me the last time that you have seen him be deep in the pocket and basically say, okay, screw it, get a running start and make that play. Like, can you recall one? I can't recall one where he moved that much before a pass.
That's the thing. It felt like when you watch it, it's like, we haven't seen that before. I mean, for him to really run up in the pocket and not look to check it down or just kind of scramble. I mean, he had his eyes down the field. He's like, hey, I'm going to Jefferson down here. So that it felt different when you saw it. Like, man, we haven't seen this too often.
The second one, and it was an incompletion, and it was not like a memorable play, but when I went back and watched it, was really impressive because I think he fumbles previously. Kenny Clark, who's a hell of a player for the Packers, he tosses Ingram aside, and then not surprisingly, Bradbury's next, and he gets tossed aside. And he's coming to Cousins, Clark is, unimpeded. Cousins has the ball, and he's about to throw it. And Clark just misses swiping it. Now, previously, it's a fumble because he's not cocking his arm yet. Yeah. But Cousins manages to get his arm up, and I think he throws an incomplete pass to Cook. But the fact is, that could have been previously and felt like it was a play that absolutely causes huge problems because it's a fumble, now potentially Packers ball. And in this case, Kirk made the play just to at least throw an incomplete pass, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, he didn't hold on to it or duck or whatever. He's getting rid of it. Yeah, I mean, he made it, again, I go back, he just looked like he's in complete control of his game. And even when there was pressure, it seemed like he made the right play. He wasn't rattled by it. And so I think the comfort level is, you said the right word, just comfortable. I think he's comfortable with his coach and comfortable with his scheme, even though we were talking about this with Seifert before the game, is that all throughout training camp, Cousins was talking about having to use flashcards, and this is difficult. Thielen talked about how difficult this offense is to learn. So I wasn't real sure. I thought there would be some, I don't know if rust is the right word, but just clunky trying to, figure it out. God, we didn't see any of that really. I'm sure there was that we just didn't know, it's going to get better too as they get more comfortable.
Oh yeah. In fact, I bet the whole thing is in technically, but not really in. Here's where O'Connell, I think, is smart though. My guess is at some point in time in the week that they were preparing for the Packers, that Kirk sat down with his coach and his coach said, hey dude, this offense is very complicated, but there's a guy who wears 18. And when in doubt, like Kirk running up in the pocket and launching the ball is basically a broken play. It's not the right play, but who gives it? So like I think that Justin Jefferson, if you were to pass out the top 5 National Football League deodorants for 2022, so what covers up the stench? I think I think it's like Justin Jefferson. So my guess is that and that's the thing is like Kirk's like this offense and Thielen's like this offense and Jefferson's like, what's the problem, gentlemen? I mean, Chipper, this is what a superstar does. It's what Kaprizov does. It's what Jefferson does. I mean, this is what a superstar means.
When all hell breaks loose, get him the puck, get him the ball. Get out of the way, and they'll make a play. And that's what it goes back to. It's like you can have the greatest scheme and everything, but sometimes you just need your guy to be better than their guy. And they have that receiver. They have that player right now. And so it's never a bad option to trust that Jefferson's going to make a play for you, even if it doesn't look right.
Exactly right. Last thing, Philadelphia Monday night. I'll
be there.
Oh, you're going. Very nice. I'm glad to hear that. Hostile environment, good team. As O'Connell acknowledged, and he's exactly right, much harder to communicate than it was at home against the Packers. What's your expectation?
Yeah, that's the thing. All these, platitudes that we've just been talking about, game management, being in control, defense dictating, it becomes harder on the road in a loud, crazy environment. And so I'm curious to see if it looks like what we saw Sunday. And I'm curious to see when they hit some adversity, like if they get behind or they don't play well in the first half. Because, I mean, it's great when you start off the way they did and just march down the field and then you get a 4th down stop. That kind of dictated. I want to see what happens if they start slow or don't play well early, how they respond to that. So, but I still think, as we were saying, get the ball to Jefferson, start there and see where that leads you.
Here's the thing I am super curious to see. It's going to happen, and it can't bother Kirk or O'Connell. The first time he throws a pass to JJ, and it's picked off. Because it's going to happen. Like, it's going to happen for sure. But that can't dissuade you. So, no. like what happens the first time that Kirk takes a shot, and God bless him, we all want him to take shots, it gets picked, it's going to happen on occasion. What's the reaction to that? Oh my God, it got picked off, or you know what? Gonna happen. Let's go right back to him.
That's what I get the sense with O'Connell, the very next play they throw it to Jefferson. Just to say, you know what? We don't care. It happens. It's part of the game. We're sticking to the game plan. So I hope that's what happens. O'Connell seems like as affable and as upbeat and stuff, positive that he is. He does kind of have that aggressiveness about him. That comes through in a different way. So I don't think he will shy away when mistakes happen from like, oh, let's retreat and play it safe. I'd be surprised if that happens.
Great stuff, man. I will talk to you next week. Thanks, Chipper.
All right, brother. We'll see you.
Talk to you.